in the plane. When I think of the words Island Spirit, I think of the word spear. Perry got his dive certification early on, fished for sport and commercial, whether it was off of St. Petersburg or somewhere in the Keys, the Exumas, the Bahamas, and Belize. Perry always knew where the fish were, and more importantly, the lobster. When Perry was on the boat, he was the captain. No one questioned that. He was an expert at everything that had to do with boats. Sometimes things can go wrong in the seas, horribly wrong sometimes. My friend Doug, Perry, and I found that out when we got slammed with a storm one evening in the Exumas. We almost lost a tender, a whaler, but Perry knew exactly what to do, lashing it to the side of the hull when we could barely hang on. Perry also knew exactly what to do in Belize when he and Lori were going through a narrow inlet with coral on each side. Perry was captaining when suddenly he lost the steering. No captain ever wants to lose the steering. The tide was pushing him toward the rocks and the coral. Perry jumped off the bridge, went down into the bilge, and steered the boat apparently with a pair of pliers, manually, while Lori shouted out their position looking at the GPS. Lori did a great job that day. Of course, Perry said, "You better be right, Lori, you better be right." He was quick thinking. Perry was always quick thinking. I've never met a guy in an emergency that could think any quicker than Perry. He got them safely through. A few years ago, Yvette, Seth, Marta, Ricardo, and Lilia were out near Passage Key, enjoying out one of Florida's many sunny days. Out of the blue, a storm came up. Many boats were sunk that day. It was in the paper the next day. A freak storm with 60 to 70 mile per hour winds came out of nowhere. Everyone on the boat was scared, and rightfully so. Seth was feverishly attempting to bring the anchor in while holding on to the railing as he was rocked side to side. The Bible has a passage about Jesus walking on the water, telling Peter to come to him and trust him. Jesus calmed the fishermen on that stormy day, and Perry also calmed his crew and got them home safely on that stormy day near Passage Key. By the way, I believe that was the last time Perry's brother-in-law Seth will ever step on a boat. When I think about the phrase island spirit, the word it stands out for me. What is it? A purpose in life? A meaning of life? Many never find it. Perry did. In my mind, I think he found it twice. Perry first found it in his fellowship. 30 years, unwavering commitment, attending meetings, speaking at meetings, helping thousands or perhaps even tens of thousands over 3 decades. He helped people find the way, helping them when they faltered. It reminds me of the time I was in the Keys with Perry and Jean, I believe. And we had Island Spirit. Perry got on his phone. He said, "Look, you got to drive me over to this other island so I can go to a meeting." Of course, halfway over, the motor broke down, but we still got there. So while Perry was in the meeting, I went to the marina and got the part to fix the motor. It was important to him, wherever he was, to attend a meeting and make a difference. Perry loved helping others. He often told me a phrase that I will never forget. Be true to thine own self. Perry also found it in his family. Ricardo, Lilia, and his loving wife, Marta. Ricardo referred to his daddy as Poppy. Poppy loved watching Ricardo train for Taekwondo. Ricardo excelled over the course of 10 years, earning his first degree black belt last summer. That's an honor that less than 1% of all Taekwondo students will ever earn. Perry also had the Game Herd trailer, which Ricardo ran events at first. Perry then trusted Ricardo to drive the Game Herd pickup truck and the 12,000-pound trailer, event to event. And then there's Lilia. Perry referred to Lilia as Sweet Pea. Perry enjoyed watching Sweet Pea's softball games and gymnastics competitions. On occasion, Perry would take Lilia out for dinner, just the two of them. Perry enjoyed taking Lilia and Ricardo out shopping for Mother's Day, showering Marta with gifts, well-deserved gifts. Marta and Perry were married 21 years, going on 22. Marta and Perry were quite different, we all know that. Marta being more quiet and reserved. Perry was about as outgoing as a fellow could get while still being laid back. Early when they were dating, Perry enjoyed going to a very special French restaurant they both loved called Le Bordeaux, a French restaurant in Tampa, I believe. They'd been together about 6 months when Perry rented a limo and picked up Marta. On the way, he stopped at the liquor store. I think the clerks were laughing at him as he left with one small, simple bottle of wine. They had a great evening, and at the end of the night, Perry came up short on money. He sheepishly asked Marta to give him the rest of the money to pay the bills. When they got back to Marta's house, he dropped her off and simply said thank you to Marta. Marta, living alone in an apartment, wasn't exactly flush and barely slept a wink that night, not knowing if she'd be able to pay her rent. She was relieved the next morning when Perry called and said he would be over, knocked on the door and gave her the cash. And that was Perry. Perry and Marta's relationship was one of the rarest. They were fully in love with each other, doting on each other, loving each other, whether it was in the hot tub first thing in the morning, being out on the boat, or just touching each other when they were at dinner. They were fully, truly in love. Perry had his eye on the next adventure for his family. He found his dream boat to take them on adventures. The boat was a 65-foot Hatteras, which was in pristine condition. Perry looked at it many times over the years. We discussed all the adventures our families would take on the new boat. It was his retirement dream. Just 2 months ago, Perry and Marta went to spend the evening on the boat and talk to the owners. Perry never gave up hope. I can't or I won't were never part of the plan. The name of the Hatteras was Carry On. Carry on is a military term. In order, an officer would give to his men to go back to doing what they were doing before the officer arrived. Carry on, Perry Campbell. Carry on.